All right, so we started to set up everything and we're ready to apply what we just made over the last couple of sections to the rest of our pillars. We started with the pillar. So if we jump over to our scene, and now what we're going to be doing is taking this pillar and applying it to the rest of them, since this is the sim for just one of them. If we have a look here at our pillar, this was just one of 4, and we want to have this setup run on all of them. And so we're going to take this, what we built here, and apply it to the rest of them. Same for the ship and probably also for the rope, although there we're probably going to really dial down and reduce this to probably just the white water. Maybe use the flip for white water generation and just have that rendered on top of the regular flat lake that we have. So before we take the setup and apply it to the rest, let's just quickly run through and see if everything is set up correctly. So let's just go quickly over our caching nodes, make sure that our start frame is set up and also our version is hooked up, so that once we do go over to our settings tab and change the cache version to a different one, and also the start frame to a different one, that this gets carried along. So let's check this here. This seems fine. Our color fade, then our collider, and then the start frame of our flip simulation. Let's just cancel this here. Go to the beginning. Let's just disable simulations. So the start frame is hooked up. That's good. Same for the flip sim, also hooked up. Then here, the meshing is hooked up as well. And here already, the white water source, we can change this. So let's add our start frame in there and then grab our version. Let's just take the parameters here and make sure this stays on top, keep above others, and then where are we at? The white water copy parameter, or probably we can just see if we can just drag that over there, and then relative channel reference. Cool. Next up is the whitewater sim. That frame is hooked up. Then the whitewater is also hooked up here. The render cache is as well. And next we have our smoke source. So we just have to hook up the version here. So I'll just drag that over there as well. Relative reference. And that's fine. The first frame of the mist smoke is set up as well. And here we have to hook up our start frame, relative reference, and also our version, relative reference. All right, so that's for the smoke. Then for the mist, I guess probably the simulation frame. Yep, hook that up as well. And we just want to make sure that we have everything connected, so we don't really have to. What? Doesn't want to. Okay. Copy parameter. Paste relative reference. Sorry for that. Just want to make sure that our setup does work, and we don't really have to think about anything else than just changing the pillar. Obviously for the ship and the rope, we're going to be doing some adjustments because the geometries are quite different and also the scale is quite different. So this is something that we do want to make sure that works and change there. But for now, we're just going to take care of the pillars, and there we shouldn't be changing anything. All right, everything hooked up. Let's have a look in our SimNet here. Let's go through it here. Yes, so first our collider, color fade, then comes our flip sim, then the whitewater source. Just going over these, make sure everything is connected properly, and then the smoke, think, because this is the smoke sim, right? And I would guess if we have a look here, this is the whitewater smoke. And I think we're missing the source here. Smoke source. Let's go ahead and add that. Drag this down. Copy this here. And this is going to be our smoke source. Very good. And here we can have this cached on multiple machines if we do have them available. All right, then we have the smoke and the mist, and that's it. And then we have the render cache of the whitewater and the render cache of the bubbles, and same for the meshing with displacement without, or rather say the ones that we will be displacing and the ones that we won't be displacing. All right, seems fine here. Let me think if we have to set up anything else, but I guess that should be fine. Cool. So let's save our scene. Let's save it as a new version. So this is going to be version 10. And then let's go ahead, take this setup that we created and apply it to our other pillars. And the reason we went through this process here, creating the setups, is that if we would just go and create recreating this from scratch for every pillar or for every for the ship and stuff, that would just take a ridiculous amount of time. And that's why it's important to get a good setup going that can work for multiple cases, obviously with tweaking. But so pillar 3, so we have pillar 2. I'll just stop the calculation there. And then pillar 1. And this would be 4. And then we have, we're going to be renaming these here in just a moment. So this is pillar 1. This is pillar 2, 3, and 4. And so if we go inside, let me think. Yeah, I think we can set this up to also have even less work to do. So the more time we save, I mean, if you would have like 100 pillars, that would make the most sense. But just to make sure we don't make any mistakes here. Here we have pillar 3, and as you can see, we also called this sim pillar 3. So what we can do here is, so let me just create an empty blast so we can just visualize this. We can grab the number here with the op expression. So that would be op digit, and then we point to a node, and this would be go up 1 level, and then that exact node. And then this should return the number 3. And there we go. So as we have here. And so we can take this expression, go here to the 3, and replace that there. And then this should return the exact same thing, and should also grab our 3rd pillar. And we want to do the same thing for the rope. And I guess, but we have to double check that. And I guess that this is going to be the digit -1. So if I'm not mistaken, let's see. So that should be fine. We can just double check that, but just so we hook that up automatically. And now let's take our setup here, copy it. So I'm just holding down Alt and dragging. Let's just go in manual mode so it doesn't recook every time. And then number 2. And it still does calculate. Awesome. And then number 1. That's why we went to manual mode, so it does cook. So number 1, number 2, and this is number 4. So let's jump inside number 1. And now we should see that here our pillar is grabbing, or our blast is grabbing the first number. And let's do auto update there. And then we should see this. Let's go to the next one. Make sure it's the correct rope. So if we visualize those two together, perfect. Let's double check this in the second pillar. Let's go to the rope, visualize our pillar, make sure they're connected, perfect. And here we can see it's grabbing the second pillar, and here it's grabbing the first rope. We just have this offset in the number. And pillar 3, we already done that one. And the last one to check is pillar 4. So let's double check this. Perfect. All right. The other thing that we have to update is the frame for our sim center. And most of the time, I think it's probably going to go up straight. So if we just compare this here, so there shouldn't be much of a difference there. Let's see, once this is on the top, yeah, it should be fairly straightforward. You shouldn't have to change that unless they're shooting up sideways. Just to be sure, let's set this frame here. So since I believe this one is shooting up a bit later, yeah, let's go for what we have here, 1062. And also here the start frame. I mean, we could leave this, but then we're going to have a lot of run up time. It's almost probably like 40 frames or something where we don't want to be simulating. So as we see here, it only starts at, what is it, around here, 40 something. So just to give it a bit of settling time, let's go for, I don't know, 35. That should be okay. So 1035, that's going to save us 34 simulation frames. And then let's go to our second pillar here. Quickly check where we are here. Yeah, so this is when it comes through the surface. Yeah, 41. And also the start frame, probably can set that to 20. And then for the first pillar here, let's check when this one is coming up. So this one reaches the surface at around 40. So let's just set this to 1040. And then for the starting, it starts to move. Yeah, let's just keep that at how it is. So now the magic can start. We basically, you would go ahead in the SimNet and then just run through this entire thing. And that should do the trick. Now, since we're lucky here and we're using deadline, this is super easy. So we just select the last node. First, let's save our scene. Just wait for it to finish and then select this node here. And then let's just quickly set up our pools here. So cache collider and the color fade. Let's just quickly select the nodes to set the pools. So I don't know if you remember where we split it up for heavy pools that can run on the workstation and the light pools that only run on the laptop and the normal pool that runs on both. So I guess the meshing can run on both. Also the render preparation can run on both. The whitewater source can run on both. The whitewater main is going to be for the workstation. The smoke source can also run on both. The smoke sim is for the workstation, and the smoke mist is for the workstation as well. Probably not that heavy, but so let's change the pool here to normal. And then for our sim, whitewater, smoke sim, and mist sim, we'll set the pool to heavy. All right, and the overall priority for all of these, let's just quickly change this here. Is going to be, let's set this to 10, and then we can always change that later. All right, save that here. And we're going to start with the first pillar. So we just select the bottom node and hit submit to deadline. It's just going to calculate here and then run through all these and then submit them to the deadline. And the nice thing here is, I'm just going to pull this over. So here we can see our old sims that we can probably delete, just keep them on there for now. And you see here, effects setup version 10, it's now submitting all these caches. And you can see some that are have this orange color. This means that they're pending. And so basically it's setting up the dependency tree. So it's going to wait for the collider to finish. And then it's going to start with the other ones. And now I think there's one thing that we messed up in the dependency. Let's wait for this to finish. But the color fade, I think, needs the collider to be cached first. So we have to change that order. And here we can just do it manually if we just select this one here and then drag it onto the pillar and then just append to the dependencies and then click yes, we want to append that job. No, still calculating. Probably the last one is going to be, I don't know, maybe the renders. Yeah. And so you can see there's quite a lot of jobs that it has to run through. It's probably going to take, I guess, bad thing, maybe a day for this all to calculate. I mean, it's going through the flip sim. It's going through the meshing of the flip sim, which takes a while. Then also doing the sourcing for the whitewater, for the smoke, and then also doing the whitewater sim, then doing the smoke sim, doing the mist sim. Maybe not a whole day, but it's going to take, because I think the flip is around 8 hours. Then the whitewater is probably like around 3 hours. And then the meshing is something that will take a while because there's quite a lot of frames here. And so let's just quickly change the order here. So our color fade is going to happen after, or needs our collider to happen, and we can add this here as it was, since these could run in parallel. So I think, yeah, we changed this to normal. Yeah, so for example, this could run on the workstation and this could in parallel run on the laptop. And then after these two are done, then it can continue with the whitewater source. Right, so let's just copy this dependency tree and then add it to the other network as well. So let's jump up, pillar 2, SimNet, select all this, get rid of it, paste it. Since we have all our settings, and since the name is the exact same and it's relative, we're pointing to this network here. And so we can just select this here and now hit submit to deadline. So let's quickly jump over to deadline. Oh yeah, save the scene, yes. And now you can see here, these are all the jobs for this one pillar. And now it's going to add another one. And the good thing is here, if we don't really have to keep track of it. We'll just have this run through, and at some point it's going to be finished. So for example, if you have to shut down your workstation and then come back at a later time, or you have a power outage and then this crashes, if you restart your machine and if it didn't finish the job, it's just going to restart. And if it did finish it, it will just continue on where it left. So for example, if it's done the collider, and it's done the flip sim, and it's still waiting for the other stuff to finish, then once you restart your machine, it's just gonna continue there. And whereas if you wouldn't have this management tool for your jobs, you'd have to always go and find out where did it stop. And if we have a look here, for example, on the collider, we have like multiple jobs. So it could be maybe like halfway through. And then otherwise you would have to check, okay, so which frame did it stop on? Then let's continue from there. And this is just going to keep track of all of it. And as you can see, it's already adding up. So we have one pillar, the second pillar, and then we're going to add our fourth pillar as well. The third one, we already simulated that one. But this just makes it so much easier just to keep track of all this. And even if you need your workstation for something else, just pause the here, disable your machine. Something that I like to do is if you go to worker properties, this is something that you can only do in super user mode, or you add the privileges to your own user. But if you go to worker properties, for example, here, I just specified to keep these free so I can still continue working, but it also does some calculations. And at night, I just turn this off. I mean, basically, you could do the same thing where you have just like an idle detection, where you, I don't know, say for 10 minutes, if the CPU is under a certain amount, or if the memory is lower than something, then it will start. Or you can also do like time checking stuff where it checks the time, and then after, I don't know, like midnight, it automatically turns on the worker here and then starts to cache this stuff. And then in the morning from 9, it turns it off again. So that way you don't really have to bother about it. You can just keep track of it in here. So finish submitting this one here. Let's go up another level, go into a last one here, into the SimNet, select all our nodes, delete them, paste our new network, select the bottom one, submit to deadline. Yes, saving our scene. And now if we head over here, and we can see the newly updated dependency for our color fade has correctly carried on here. And so now we're going to get a correct dependency tree submitted. So that's why we changed that there. For the other one, we just changed it manually, just so we don't have to resubmit it, which wouldn't make any sense. Now just wait for the other pillar to come up here, and you're already getting a sense for the scale of this. This is getting pretty huge, and still there are 4 more ropes to come. So, and also for the ship. So this is it's gonna get quite a task to manage all this, and this is why I really love working with a software like this with Deadline. Even though if you don't use it with multiple machines, even if it's just one machine, your own machine, it just makes it so much easier to keep track of all this. Especially when then later you're going to start to add your renders to this, and then you can also have them pending on the simulation. So once that is done, then you can start your render. You can also do frame dependencies. So for example, if you see here, if you go, let's see, anything that is frame dependent, it doesn't matter. Let's just open up the properties here, Control P, and then if we go under dependencies, here we see the jobs that it's waiting on, and it uses a frame dependency. So for example, if you look here, once it's done with these frames, then a job that is frame dependent on this one will also calculate these frames if it has a chunked, how do you say, a chunked submission. So that, for example, here it would still wait until the last frame, because this is the entire chunk that it, or the frames that it would need. So but you can also offset this. So if, for example, if you look here, you can add like a frame offset, but don't really have to worry about that. It does that automatically for you. And this is, for example, if you're doing renders later on, we can, for example, pen them all on each other, and then it will go through each of the layers, for example, the whitewater, the mist, the smoke, the animation part, the environment, whatever, and then pen them all together so that it calculates one frame of each and then jumps to the first job again, and then continues calculating one frame for each layer, and then continues so that you can quickly start to slap it together and have a look how that works. And it just keeps running through it until it has finished the entire job, instead of just rendering one full job and then carrying to the next layer and then rendering that entire section, so you can quickly get an idea if everything is working. But we'll get to that part once we get into the rendering section. So we have our fourth pillar submitted, and this basically covers it for our pillar setup. The only thing that we will be doing later in the rendering part is where we're going to be connecting all this. So grabbing our out nodes and then setting our renderer objects as we started here, for example. But this is going to leave that to the rendering section. Now, next up is going to be our ship simulation, which is going to be a bit more complex than here, since we're going to be modifying some of the stuff that we have here, and we'll see what we have to change there. Also, for the colliders, we would need all the ropes instead of just one single rope, and we're going to switch out the collider for our ship as well, and this is going to be a bit different than for the pillar. Since the pillar is small, pretty lightweight, we're going to change that. All right, and let's carry on to the next section. Save this here and let our simulation run.